Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 172 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
Here's what's coming up in today's show. In our Noteworthy segment, we're hoping to help some of you newer vegans with a Vegan Pantry staple review.
And in our main topic, we give you some tools to help fight fascism in our country and around the world.
But before we get into all of that, what have we been up to?
Working.
You've been working?
I've been working.
I've been calling representatives.
I've been signing move on petitions all over the place.
Sam's been researching moving to Albania.
I have. I ran across a YouTube video not too long ago that detailed the 10 countries that it is easiest to move to. And the number one ranking country was Albania.
Right.
And so, you know, the income requirements are relatively small. You can go for an entire year on a tourist visa before you try to establish residency, like all kinds of beautiful things. So, yeah, if things get really, really bad and we need to hightail it out of the country, Albania is looking really good.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to know. We're, just trying to maintain our empathy.
Yes.
And remain hopeful during these unprecedented times, as people like to say. But you know what? It is precedented.
Yes. It has.
It is not unprecedented.
It is not even remotely unprecedented.
Yeah. Maybe in our lifetime, but, in other parts of the world, this has been going on.
Certainly.
And so we just need to be, we need to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Vigilant.
Vigilant, certainly.
I think that's the word I'm looking for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I agree with you. I mean, but I'm not finding it hard to maintain empathy. I feel like I've almost been on empathy overload.
Right. Yeah.
Because, all of this stuff has not hit our backyard yet.
Yeah.
But it is impacting so many people in so many kind of horrific ways that I feel for them. And so that can be the challenge, not maintaining your empathy, but being able to, almost take on more worry and more frustration and more anger and more, pain. That's the harder part.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. And I have on my outline here that we need to take time away from social media and news outlets.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while to decompress from it all.
Yes, and along with that, we need to eat brownies.
Yeah, eat brownies.
Christine made some brownies the other day.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Yeah.
Because, for me, if I'm feeling a little bit out of sorts, there's nothing to put me right back on an even keel like a brownie or some other delicious baked good.
Yeah. Some people might, reach for an adult beverage. Sam reaches for brownies. So I made some brownies.
It's true.
Yeah. But on a happier note, yesterday we went to a Super Bowl party.
We sure did.
Watched the Super Bowl.
Well, Christine watched the Super Bowl. I was doing other things.
Sam was looking at her phone.
I was reading.
You were reading on your phone? I was reading.
Well, yeah, because, I took craft projects with me, but once the craft projects were over, I needed something else to do because I don't enjoy football.
Yeah, she's not a fan.
I like being in the company of family and friends and having a nice dinner, and we played some Scattergories, which was fun. Scattergories is one of my favorite games.
I haven't played that in years. It's a really good game.
But when the Super Bowl was going, I wasn't feeling it. So I was reading.
Out.
I was reading.
Yeah, you kind of tuned out. Hey, we had some really great food. Right?
We did.
My sister made this lovely batch of Impossible meatballs with sauce, and we could make meatball sandwiches. She had a nice crunchy bread we can make meatball sandwiches out of.
Little baby meatball sandwiches.
Yeah. I brought, I made Maywa vegan chicken wings. They're more like a tiny chicken leg shape kind of thing. I did like a spicy barbecue, and I did some with a ginger garlic. And marinated them in that. And then people seem to enjoy those.
I didn't try them.
Yeah, I know you're not a fan of them.
I'm not, just because the texture of them to me is too evocative of dark meat.
Too meaty.
Chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never enjoyed dark meat chicken when I ate chicken, so it's not something I wish to be reminded of.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though I'm sure the flavor was probably wonderful.
Oh, they were really good.
Texturally, it's not my thing.
It's not her jam. I also made a dill ranch. I used plain vegan yogurt and just added a ton of fresh dill and some garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper. It was really good.
Yeah, I actually did try some of the dill dip because I had plenty of celery and carrots. Celery and carrots.
Yeah, because I also brought a ton of celery and carrot sticks.
Yeah, and so that was
alongside.
That was really tasty.
Yeah, and I brought some Daya blue cheese dressing, which is pretty good. It's not bad. I
didn't try it.
I think I couldn't get the Follow Your Heart feta. No, the Follow Your Heart blue cheese. Because they make like little blue cheese crumbles.
Yeah.
I was going to make my own, but I couldn't get my hands on it. So
okay.
I had to resort to the bottled stuff. And I mean, it wasn't bad.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of really good food.
We even had an ice cream bar.
Yeah, we had an ice cream bar, a bunch of different flavors of vegan ice cream and toppings of your choice.
Yeah, that was delightful.
That was fun.
I had a little scoop of vanilla ice cream and a little scoop of chocolate and a little scoop of blueberry with raspberry sauce and some chocolate sauce and some peanuts. It was really good.
Yeah, I just went full vanilla, little chocolate sauce, little raspberry, and some peanuts. It was good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was fun. It was a nice distraction from everything that's been going on.
It was a lovely day.
And I'm glad the Eagles won. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
We have a recipe this week.
We do.
So here is this week's From Our Vegan Kitchen recipe of the week.
This week, we're taking a look at Christine's famous roasted potatoes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, they're not actually famous, but
they're not.
They kind of should be.
They're famous here at our house.
Because they're just ridiculously good.
They are. They are ridiculously good. And I use them for several things, like on salads or as a side or with a breakfast scramble. They're really versatile, and I'm going to include the recipe on our Patreon for our Patreon community. And also, I have a secret to make your roasted potatoes crispy and perfect.
Cool.
And if you want that secret, hop on over to our Patreon and join. You'll get the recipe. It'll be up by the end of the week.
And I don't even know what the secret is.
It's a secret.
It is truly Christine's secret. I don't even know what it is.
I'll tell you off the air. I'll tell you what the secret is off the air.
Cool.
That brings us to our Noteworthy segment. So like we said at the top of the show, in our Noteworthy segment, we're going to be talking about some vegan pantry staples that every new vegan should have. And these items will help you prepare a variety of healthy and delicious plant-based meals.
At the center of every vegan pantry should be grains.
I agree.
Yes, should definitely be grains.
A variety of grains.
Yes, absolutely a variety of grains.
Yeah.
Because it is best for your gut biome to get as wide a variety of plant foods as you possibly can. So you don't want to get stuck in doing the same thing every day.
It's true, and which is easy to do.
Very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy easy. So we would definitely recommend having a good stock of rice, and that would be brown rice, wild rice, and white rice.
Yeah.
Depending on your rice needs for any particular dish.
I prefer a basmati.
You do like a
as far
basmati
as
rice.
White rice goes?
Yeah. Brown rice is my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely brown rice is my favorite. But there are certain things like, if you're making sushi or if you're making a curry, sometimes having that kind of sticky white rice is just really, really satisfying.
Yeah.
Then, of course, probably one of our biggest go-tos is quinoa.
I love quinoa.
Quinoa's great.
Yeah.
Awesome texture. It adds some really wonderful balance to salads. It's a really great protein source. It cooks quickly and is, again, incredibly versatile.
Super versatile, and I like the nutty flavor of quinoa. Some people don't really like quinoa. I think quinoa is maybe one of those things that the more you eat it, the more you're going to like it. It's acquired, you know what I mean? And I can also recommend that when you're cooking your quinoa, maybe put a bouillon cube in. To impart a little more flavor if you're not a fan of just the nutty flavor of quinoa.
I've also cooked quinoa in miso ginger broth.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Works really, really well.
Yeah, that's good.
Then we get to the pastas. I mean, who doesn't like pasta?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. A world without pasta is...
It's a sad world.
It's a sad world.
Yeah.
But we definitely recommend sticking with whole wheat pasta as much as possible. It's just better for you. It helps with blood sugar maintenance and cholesterol maintenance. The whole wheat is definitely dietarily preferable than white pasta.
Sure.
That being said, there's nothing wrong with going for white pasta every now and again.
No.
Also, for the gluten-free folk out there, there are all kinds of chickpea and lentil pastas that imitate white pasta quite well.
And the gluten-free pastas have come a long way.
They really, really
They used to be pretty bad. But now there's so many made from so many different things.
Yeah.
That a lot of them really mimic the consistency and flavor of a regular wheat pasta.
Right. While again being higher in protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So chickpea and lentil pastas definitely have some great nutritional value going on.
They do.
What else do we have?
Oats.
Okay.
Oats. Yeah, rolled oats or steel cut oats. Make sure you get your oats in the organic variety because oats are one of the highest sprayed crops.
We want
out
to
there.
avoid the glyphosates.
Yeah, you want to avoid that. So get yourself some organic oats. Even the organic ones are not very expensive. Bob's Red Mill makes a nice organic rolled oat. And I don't use steel cut oats very often, but they're good. Breads, whole grain or sprouted bread.
Yes.
Do you, and when I say you, I mean you, the listener. That's right. I'm talking to you. Stop what you're doing. I want to know, are you a white bread person? I haven't been a white bread person since I was young, like a kid.
I don't actually ever remember being a white bread person.
No.
Even when I was a kid, we did, I think it was called Roman meal.
Oh, yeah, Roman meal.
Back at the time, which was a whole grain bread. And so I've always just preferred whole grain breads to white breads. Now, there are some exceptions. For example, when you're having an Italian meal, having a really good Italian bread, which is usually a white flour bread, is kind of essential. Also, if you're in France, you got to do some baguettes. You got to do some croissants. And they are best made. Generally speaking, I have had a couple of good whole wheat croissants, but in general, those are best made with white flour.
Yeah. I like a whole grain. More grains, the better, like grains and seeds.
Oh, grains
I like
and seeds and nuts and, bring it.
I like, some people don't. I like the textural
Me too.
differences in grainy breads like that.
Yeah, whether it's for sandwiches or toast, I feel like those whole grain and sprouted breads just add something.
Yeah. When I was younger, I think my father was a white bread guy. He liked white bread. My mother was a wheat bread lady. And we used to get Wonder Bread.
Oh, gosh.
But listen, somebody recently posted a thing about the Wonder Bread that we ate. I'm talking like in the 60s and early 70s. And the Wonder Bread that's on the shelves now.
Completely different.
Ingredient-wise, oh my God. The Wonder Bread that we ate, it wasn't bad for you. It was what you would use to make bread at home. There was no crazy stuff in there at all, not even preservatives.
Right.
The Wonder Bread now has like a 4-inch long list of ingredients. It's insane.
That's terrifying.
But I do remember the Wonder Bread, you could squeeze it in your hand and it would like reform dough.
Yeah, would turn into a ball. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my bread story.
There you go.
Tortillas and wraps are good, and you can get those whole wheat too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Our fridge is never without tortillas.
I'm kind of addicted to tortillas.
Yes.
It's my jam.
I mean, in fact, we're having burritos tonight.
We are. Since we're done recording this, we're having burritos. Oh, couscous.
Oh, see, now this line, this is like my favorite kind of category of grains: couscous, bulgur wheat, barley, and farro.
Yeah, we do a lot of farro and barley, and I just got a big bag of organic bulgur that I'm really excited to use for some recipes.
Yep, I just absolutely love them. We put them on salads all the time because we do a lot of big salads.
Yeah.
But sometimes if it's just vegetables, it's not quite satiating enough.
Yeah, you're hungry a few hours later.
Yeah, so we do our best to add some grain and add some protein, a little bit of fat to the salads to make sure that, we're not starving 2 hours
Yeah.
after we have dinner.
And then it's a more well-rounded, nutritionally well-rounded
exactly.
meal.
But yeah, farro and barley and couscous. Oh, I just love them. Now, couscous is technically not a grain. It's a pasta.
It's funny. It really isn't a grain, but
No.
it often gets
Lumped
categorized
in.
as a grain. The last one on our grains and carbs is what?
Rice noodles and soba noodles.
Yeah.
Again, right at the top of my list.
Yeah.
Absolutely love them. Any kind of Asian noodle.
Yeah.
Be it soba, which is usually a buckwheat noodle.
Yeah.
So
good for people that don't do gluten.
Yep. And also a higher protein package than a lot of noodles. Rice noodles, of course, also gluten-free. And then I also love udon noodles, which do tend to be wheat-based, but they're those nice, thick, kind of chewy
kind of
noodle.
gooey.
Oh, I love them. I just love them. They're so good.
We went through a phase where we were doing like soba bowls like every other day.
So frequently. Oh, and then, of course, ramen.
Oh, yeah. Ramen.
Can't forget ramen. I do love ramen noodles.
Ramen is delicious.
It really is.
We're going to move on to something else that's good to have in your pantry, legumes and beans.
Indeed.
Right?
Yes. And actually, the first two on the list are probably my favorite. The first is lentils. And lentils, again, just so versatile.
Because there's so many different kinds of lentils.
So many kinds. Green, red, black, orange, yellow, brown. You name it, you've got a lentil.
Yeah.
It's just great.
You've got a lentil.
And some of them, kind of retain their shape and retain their texture. Others kind of cook down into almost a sauce.
Yeah.
And so there are just so many wonderful things that you can do with them. And again, just really high protein, really flavorful.
Yeah.
Love them.
If you're not familiar with lentils, you don't know what lentils to get, just get green lentils. They're really versatile, and they cook similar to rice, and they're really good for beefing up a meal.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, and if you have an Instant Pot, you can make a ton of meal prep it, and make a ton of lentils in like 10 minutes on full pressure. And then you'll have those throughout the week and you can use them in different dishes. So lentils are really versatile, like Sam said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next on the list is chickpeas. And I think this is probably on average my most consumed bean.
Yeah.
Between dried crunchy chickpeas, because I love crunchy chickpeas. The canned chickpeas that we then rinse and toss into a salad, or Christine will sometimes roast them, which they are really, really great. Season them, but also in hummus form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all hail the chickpea.
All hail chickpeas.
I love them.
Yeah. Or garbanzo beans.
Yes.
Or as my grandmother used to call them, chichi beans.
Chichi beans.
Yeah. One of my favorites, black beans. Black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans. Super versatile.
Yes.
Super inexpensive.
Yes.
Most beans.
And let me guess, are there going to be black beans in the burrito?
There will be.
I love it.
There will be black beans and garbanzo beans.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's a bean-a-thon.
It's a 2-bean burrito.
It's a 2-bean burrito. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Then a really great staple for soups, cannellini beans or navy beans. These are really, really wonderful when you're putting them into a beautiful vegetable soup. Again, kind of bumps up the protein count. They're just fantastic.
They are. And little tip, add them to a pasta dish too, cannellinis.
Yep.
They make like kind of a creamy, they get real creamy in the pasta. And like Sam said, it bumps up the protein if you're having a pasta dish.
Yep.
And I just love them. They're so good and creamy inside.
Then we've got split peas.
I'm not a huge fan of split peas.
I'm not either. I mean, but I think maybe it's just that we don't have them.
We don't use
very
them.
often.
Yeah.
Like I would like to reinvestigate the split pea.
All right, we'll reinvestigate split peas.
Okay.
The only way I've really had them is in soup.
Well, so let's try a different iteration of split peas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one of our favorites is edamame, which you can get frozen.
Yes. Love edamame.
Yeah. Really inexpensive.
Really inexpensive.
Yeah.
And, just grab some shelled edamame and keep it in the freezer. When it's time to put it on a salad or in a soup or on a noodle bowl or anything like that, just run them under some hot water.
Yep.
And they're just fantastic.
They are.
Yes.
And like Sam said, hummus.
Love hummus.
Store-bought or homemade. Yeah.
I have a particular weakness for Ithaca lemon dill. hummus.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that in the past, but
We have.
Yeah, it is your favorite hummus.
It is my favorite. I mean, I'm a fan of any hummus. I really haven't met a hummus that I don't like.
Yeah, me neither.
But this hummus, I don't know what it is. It's just so incredibly flavorful.
Yeah.
And I love the texture, and it's amazing.
That brings us to our next category of things you should keep in your pantry if you can, nuts and seeds.
Gotta love some nuts and seeds.
I do love nuts and seeds.
Starting off, almonds, cashews, walnuts. And I would add to that list, I would add Brazil nuts. I would add hazelnuts. I would add pistachios.
Brazil nuts. If you eat one Brazil nut a day, what happens?
Well, it's not a particular thing that happens, but it's actually 3 Brazil nuts a day are
3 Brazil
recommended
nuts.
for your choline intake.
Yeah, you can get your daily.
You get all the choline you need out of 3 Brazil nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really good for you.
Yes, they are. And tasty too.
Yeah. We always keep nuts on hand, and also sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds.
Kind of an essential.
Yeah.
I doubt there are many days that we go without either sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds or both.
Till today will be one of those days because we're out of both of those things.
Oh, bummer. Oh, we got to fix that.
Yeah, I know. Chia seeds.
Chia seeds.
We don't use a lot of chia seeds.
We don't.
I've only had a chia pudding once. A friend of mine's mother made chia pudding and she sent me home with a little jar, and I liked it. I don't think you would. It's kind of
Tapioca-esque.
Yeah, gelatinous.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind trying it. I do know chia seeds work well in smoothies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
they're
they're good for thickeners too.
for sure.
If you're making something you want it thicker, and they're really good for you.
Yes, they are.
Another seed that we use often is flax seeds.
Yes. And flax seeds can go in just about anything.
Yeah.
Okay, because they don't have a really specific flavor to
Yeah,
them.
they're pretty
You
neutral.
can toss them into sauces and soups and
Yeah.
on top of salads. Mix them with some nooch as a salad topping or a popcorn topping.
Yeah.
Because if you grind the flax seeds, you will better absorb the nutrients
Yeah.
that are in the flax seeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can toss flax seeds into just about anything.
You can.
Mix them into your hummus and then use that as, the base for your sandwich or something like that.
Here's another one that's good to keep, but we don't. Hemp seeds.
Yeah, we don't really do hemp seeds, do
It's
we?
really just a matter of not having hemp seeds available to us at the
Okay,
store that we shop at.
Yep.
But hemp seeds are good. I've had things with hemp seeds in them or on them, and it's a good, super nutty, super almost grassy flavor.
Really earthy
Yeah.
flavor. Yep, love that. And then, of course, we get to the nut butters.
Nut butter. Butter.
We are both kind of nutty for peanut butter.
I love peanut butter.
Love peanut
butter.
butter
For me is a comfort food.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peanut
I get
butter
that.
on toast.
Yep.
Can't go wrong.
And then almond butter or cashew butter or hazelnut butter. I don't find that almond butter has a whole lot of flavor to it.
Not really. I mean, it's good for in smoothies and stuff like that, or maybe a smoothie bowl,
Sure.
or maybe on your oatmeal if you like oatmeal. But I prefer peanut butter
Yeah, me too.
over almond butter.
Definitely. And I do like hazelnut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in this category, tahini is good to
yeah.
keep on hand because you can make dressings with it. And of course, if you're making your own hummus, you're going to need it. And that's made from ground sesame seeds.
Yes.
So,
And we do also use sesame seeds quite frequently, again,
Yeah.
particularly if we're doing a stir fry or we're doing a noodle bowl, something like that. Generally speaking, there will be some sesame seeds sprinkled on top.
yep. There are dairy alternatives that you should keep on hand. If you don't already, of course, non-dairy milks, almond, soy, oats, cashew, coconut. There's so many versions out there.
There are.
There's nut milks now of every variety.
Yes. I remember when we first went vegan, I was doing, I think it was Elmhurst did
Yeah.
a hazelnut milk
Yeah.
that I was just bonkers for.
It is
and
really good.
We haven't been able to find it in quite some time.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to come by.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because before we went vegan, I was kind of a milk drinker. And now
You were the only one.
yeah. And now that we are vegan, I really don't consume a lot of milk.
No, the milks that we consume, I put in my coffee.
I will occasionally have with cereal.
Yeah, and of course I use it for recipes and stuff.
Right.
But other than that, we're not like big glass of milk drinkers. So, yeah.
Probably my favorite thing on this list of dairy alternatives, though, is nutritional yeast.
Nooch.
I love nooch.
Me too. It's good in so many ways.
It's good in so many ways. And I think maybe my favorite iteration of Nooch is just on popcorn.
It's really good on popcorn. Yeah, here's what we do. We make our own popcorn in a pan on the stove. Real easy to do. Little oil on the bottom. And then I have a little spritzer bottle with water in it. Mm-hmm. So I put it in a bowl, spritz it a little bit with water, add a little salt, and add Nooch. It's so good.
So good.
Yeah. And then little spritz just helps the salt and the Nooch stick to the popcorn a little better so it doesn't all float to the bottom.
Exactly. So no butter.
No,
so,
you don't need it.
We don't need the butter. You don't need the added fat, all of that.
Yeah.
But, that Nooch, just fantastic.
Really good. Mm-hmm. There's lots of really good vegan cheeses now, too.
Mm-hmm. You're more the vegan cheese person than I am.
Yeah, you don't eat much cheese.
I don't.
You never really did.
Well, prior to going vegan, I did have a deep soft spot for one particular cheese, and that's Havarti with dill.
Yeah, Havarti.
Yeah, and there is, I think it's the Uncreamery makes an exceptional vegan Havarti dill.
Yeah.
But we just don't buy it. Like, we would have to order it. It's not available in any of the stores near us.
Right.
So we would have to order it, and I just don't bother.
Yeah. We don't keep a ton of vegan cheese on hand. Mm-hmm. I usually have a package of the Violife. What is it that
slices.
I get? Smoked provolone is my favorite, the slices. And we just keep a package of that on hand for like sandwiches and stuff. Yeah. But we don't usually have a ton of different vegan cheese. When we first went vegan, I was trying every vegan cheese available because I was kind of a cheese addict,
Yes, you were. The amount of money we spent on vegan cheese in our first few weeks of being vegan.
I just wanted to try them all.
Was obscene. Like, literally obscene.
We had a budget for cheese.
Yes. And so I'm really glad that we're not doing that anymore. That's awesome.
Because vegan cheeses can be a little on the pricey side.
They can, particularly the boutique cheeses. They can be on the pricey side. And we do tend to keep some shreds in the house as well, both mozzarella and cheddar, in case we're making a burrito bowl or we're making tacos or chili, stuff like that.
Yeah. I use the Aldi brand vegan shreds, and they're pretty good.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And they're very inexpensive.
Yep.
Dairy-free yogurt. And I was just talking about that. I made that dill ranch, and I made it with Wegmans brand because they didn't have the Forager. I usually use Forager for things like that. Wegmans brand plain vegan yogurt. And it's a coconut-based yogurt. And I, of course, tasted it first, and it did a little bit of coconut on the back end, but once I put dill and all the other herbs and spices into it, it kind of faded away. Yeah. And it was pretty reasonably priced because dairy yogurts also can be a little on the pricey side. But there are ones made with coconut and soy and almond and
cashew.
Yeah. And just like try if you can get the little ones and try to see which ones you like best out of those choices.
Yeah. I actually haven't found one that I really love, but I'm also picky when it comes to yogurt.
Yeah.
Pre-veganism, there were really only a couple of yogurts that I really liked, and they were Greek yogurts. They were thicker, and just the texture was really wonderful. I don't like the runny texture that you get with a lot of yogurts.
Yeah.
So I haven't found a dairy-free yogurt that I really, really love, but I do know that there are a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah. Then, speaking of popcorn, you need oils and fats on hand.
For sure.
For when you're cooking. What we use mostly is olive oil, extra virgin olive oil for salads and for light cooking. You don't have to get extra virgin really. If you're using it for cooking, you don't need extra virgin.
Right.
Because extra virgin just means it has more of an olivey flavor to it.
Yeah.
And it's not really necessary. If you're just using it for a cooking oil, you can get the lesser expensive olive oil. You don't have to go crazy with that.
For sure.
Yeah. Coconut oil, a lot of people suggest coconut oil, but bear in mind that coconut oil does have a lot of saturated fat.
Yes. Coconut oil, while it is replete with MCTs, which are really, really healthy compound, they are also loaded with saturated fat. So you do want to be careful with the coconut oil.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it on a daily basis.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And also, if you're doing any processed food, any kinds of snacks or crackers or cookies, anything like that, do check for coconut oil because it does hide in a lot of products that are marketed specifically to vegans. And it can have a negative impact on your heart health in the long term.
Yeah.
That being said,
in moderation. Just keep it in moderation.
Yes. That being said, if I make chocolate chip cookies from scratch, The binder is coconut oil.
Really? You
Yeah.
use coconut oil?
Refined coconut oil, because then it doesn't have a coconut flavor,
Yeah.
but the texture is perfect.
We do occasionally keep on hand avocado oil.
I love
'cause
avocado oil.
It's really neutral, even more neutral than like a less expensive olive oil. So it's good for high heat. It has this lower smoking rate.
Mm-hmm.
Olive oil will start to smoke or burn at higher temperatures. So if you're using it for like maybe pan frying something, avocado oil is probably a better choice because it can stand up to the heat without breaking down. And the last one on this list is sesame oil, which I love, especially a toasted sesame oil. Regular sesame oil for cooking. And then if you're using something that you're cooking, maybe it's an Asian feel kind of thing, use the toasted sesame oil at the end, kind of like a finishing oil.
Yeah.
So, because you don't want to waste your toasted sesame oil, it'll cook, that flavor will cook out.
Right.
And you're just kind of wasting it.
Yeah.
So just use it at the end.
Cool.
Just a little tip.
Then, of course, you got to have sweeteners. Because what's life without a little bit of sweet?
We're not sweet enough.
So things like maple syrup, agave nectar, coconut sugar, date syrup or dates themselves, and molasses are really great substitutes for cane sugar without going into the realm of artificial sweeteners.
Yeah. No, we don't. I try not to use artificial sweeteners. Sam, you use stevia every now and again.
Yeah,
Like
every now and again, stevia.
If we make like a homemade iced tea, you might use stevia in it.
Yeah. I don't even think we have any in the house right now, though.
Yeah, I don't think we do. But I'm more of a, make it the real thing for me.
Well, stevia is a real thing.
I know, but I prefer just like maple syrup or coconut sugar, or even just regular raw sugar.
All right, I hear you.
Herbs and spices. You really should have way too many spices and herbs like I do.
We do have way too many herbs and spices. I mean, we're talking garlic powder and onion powder.
Well, garlic powder and onion powder, I buy in the big thing.
Yeah.
I use them almost every time I cook. The holy trinity is salt, onion powder, and garlic powder.
And black pepper.
And that's not a trinity then.
Well, no, but I'm saying I would put black pepper before onion powder.
Oh, really? Oh, no. Anyway, I use a lot of garlic powder and onion powder, so it's good to keep on hand.
Then, of course, paprika, both regular and smoked.
Yep.
Cumin, turmeric, chili powder and or cayenne pepper, Italian seasoning, basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, cinnamon, nutmeg. I would add everything but the bagel seasoning.
Yeah, we keep
that
on hand.
I would add green goddess seasoning. I would add ras el hanout. I would, za'atar, so many things.
Za'atar is so good.
Garam masala, kind of essential.
Yeah.
But dill, I'm sorry, I can't exist without dill.
Yeah, but you can really zhuzh things up if you have a good supply of herbs and spices on hand. You can make a really plain like pasta dish or something and make it super extra special by adding, some maybe intriguing spices to it. So they're good to have on hand. What else? Oh, like condiments and sauces. Good to keep those on hand. Soy sauce and tamari. We always have those on hand. Mainly tamari. I only buy soy sauce when I have a recipe that calls for soy sauce because I actually prefer tamari to regular soy sauce. They are completely different flavor-wise.
Well, and flavor-wise, I actually prefer coconut aminos to soy sauce.
I don't mind the coconut aminos, but I still prefer tamari.
Them. Yeah. Okay.
And tamari is gluten-free, so.
That is true.
Yeah.
And coconut aminos are soy-free if you're interested in that.
That is true. Miso paste. I have too much miso paste in the refrigerator right now because I think I bought it and then didn't know I bought it and I bought it again.
Yep.
And you don't use so much, very much of it when you use it. So it lasts for a long time.
It does.
But there are different misos. There's dark misos and light misos and red misos. And they're really good for adding just a umami-ness to something.
Yeah. Particularly Asian dishes.
Yeah, but even not Asian dishes. I mean, you'll find miso in things where you don't think there's miso.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sneaky like that. Sneaky miso. Vinegars. It's good to keep a selection of different vinegars on hand. Apple cider, balsamic, rice, some white wine vinegar, and some red wine vinegar on hand because those are good for dressings and stuff like that. So
Always good to have some mustard around. I think of the condiments that are kind of traditionally used like on a hamburger. Mustard is my favorite.
Yeah.
Keep some Dijon, yellow, or stone ground mustard. Do be careful with honey mustards because, of course, honey, well, some people will say honey is vegan and some will say honey is not, but we don't actually consume honey, so
it's not.
We stay away from the honey mustard. So if ever I'm jonesing for honey mustard, which happens because it used to be my favorite salad dressing, Christine will whip up like an agave and mustard kind of
or even maple
dressing for me.
syrup.
Or maple syrup and mustard.
Maple syrup and mustard makes a fabulous substitute to honey mustard.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, hot sauces. Hot sauce. Sriracha or Tabasco. Again, with srirachas or Tabascos, some people say some of them aren't vegan because of the sugars in them. But this is getting to a point where we're getting into the weeds a little bit with that because the sugars might be processed with bone char.
Right.
But you have no way of knowing if that's true or not. When you look on the back of a product and it says that it has sugar, white sugar or whatever, unless you call the company. I do know that one more famous brand of sriracha, I can't remember, we actually have a bottle of it in our refrigerator. They said that it's not vegan because of the bone char and the sugar. But you don't know that. So, don't drive yourself crazy over things like that.
Right. Also, you got to go with a good vegan mayo.
There are way more vegan mayos out there now than there used to be. It used to just be Vegenaise. And I like Vegenaise.
I do too.
But it's expensive.
It is.
Super expensive.
And also, I've noticed when you get down to the bottom of a jar of Vegenaise, it gets really watery.
It can. Yeah, it can get watery if you don't use it.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah, if you don't use it fast enough. Yeah, I don't know why that is either.
Totally weird.
I like the flavor of Vegenaise, though.
Yeah, me too.
Hellmann's now, we buy the Hellmann's. And then they switch from the jar to the squeezable thing.
Oh, so stupid.
I don't know if you, the listener, have gotten that Hellmann's squeezable thing, but it is a nightmare. I hate that thing. Then just recently, our local grocery store went back to the jar, and I had like a little hallelujah moment. Like, oh my God, the jar. I never thought I'd be so happy to see a jar of mayonnaise.
Seriously.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, the Hellmann's is not bad. And there are other brands. I know Just makes one, but they don't carry it where we shop.
No.
Just makes a mayo and a ranch, but they don't carry it where we shop. And I've heard it's pretty good.
Cool.
And Duke's, for those of you in the South, Duke's mayo is like king in the South.
Really?
Duke's now makes a plant-based mayo.
Oh, nice.
Which, of course, we can't get because Duke's is a Southern brand. So there's that. Tomato paste and canned diced tomatoes. I always have like 4 or 5 cans of canned diced tomatoes in the pantry. Because they just come in handy if you're making a chili or a pasta dish or whatever and you want to add tomatoes to it. You don't have tomatoes in the fridge, or you just want maybe like a fire roasted tomato, because you can get canned diced tomatoes in different varieties, which is really convenient. And tomato paste, I know it usually comes in those little cans, but if you can find it in the tube, that is so much nicer. Because the little can, you never use
the whole can.
A recipe never calls for an entire can of tomato paste. Unless you're making, say, pasta sauce for 30 people. You're not going to use an entire little can of tomato paste. And then you're like, what do I do with the rest of this little can, right?
Right.
So if you can find it in the tube, that is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. And that's actually a perfect segue into the canned and jarred goods.
Yeah.
So good idea to have some coconut milk around, especially if you are a fan of any Thai or Indian cuisine.
Yep.
Canned beans and chickpeas.
Yeah.
Just for convenience sake.
Yeah. If you can afford to get the organic variety of the canned beans, it's better, because beans also have been found, the canned beans have been found to be high in glyphosates.
Glyphosates.
Glyphosates. So yeah, if you can afford the organic variety, get the organic variety. Our Aldi's carries organic beans, which is cool.
So fantastic.
And they're really reasonably priced. Canned lentils. Yeah, if you don't want to cook a lentil or take the time to cook lentils, because they do take a little longer than your average bean, you can buy lentils in the can.
Yep.
And they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
We also like to keep around some kind of just punches of flavor, like olives and capers.
Yeah.
Pickles as well, actually, or fermented vegetables like sauerkraut or kimchi.
Yeah. Olives, like we keep black olives on hand for whatever, just to have them. But Kalamata olives are also a good thing to have on hand because you can really like punch up a dish with not even that many Kalamata olives and just cut them up small and toss them in there. And it's like, ooh, the Kalamata olives really like elevated it, you know?
Love olives.
Yeah. And capers, of course.
Then, of course, you've got your baking and cooking essentials. So starting with flour. It's a good idea to have all-purpose flour, whole wheat flour, and then a gluten-free or nut-based flour like almond flour.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a ton of great gluten-free flours out there. I mean,
there really are.
There's one-to-ones out there that you can't even tell the difference.
It's true.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah. Cornstarch, arrowroot powder for like thickening sauces or coating your tofu before you pan fry it. You can get a nice little sear on it. Cornstarch is a good thing to keep on hand. You can also use cornstarch in place of baby powder.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And you shouldn't use talc. Talc is bad for you. Not that the talc isn't normally in your pantry, but on a side note, if you're buying like baby powder, don't buy the one that's talc. Buy the one that's cornstarch.
Right.
It's much better for you. And arrowroot powder, which can be kind of pricey. And usually you can substitute anything that calls for arrowroot powder with another kind of starch, either potato starch or cornstarch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I have a little tiny thing of it. So rarely does something call for arrowroot powder that, you know, a little tiny thing of it lasts forever.
Yeah. Also, of course, baking soda and baking powder. Cocoa powder, whenever you're making anything with a chocolate base, and vanilla extract for sure. I also like to keep almond extract around, because it just adds a different punch of flavor to cookies or cakes than does vanilla.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like my accidental dark chocolate cherry almond chip cookies, because I was making chocolate chip cookies and ran out of vanilla. And so used almond extract instead, and then went, "Oh, wait, we have dried cherries," and those were awesome.
That was a happy accident.
That was a very happy accident.
Yeah. Proteins and meat alternatives. Tofu, of course, we always keep tofu on hand. I usually have like 4 things of tofu in the refrigerator, and usually extra firm. And then I usually get the like super extra firm, the one that's in the vacuum packed.
Yeah.
That one, you don't have, it's much firmer and you don't have to press it for as long. And Sam actually prefers that super firm.
I do.
To a regular extra firm tofu. Me, on the other hand, I will eat any tofu, a silken. I love tofu. I don't care what shape it comes in or how much water is in. So yeah, tofu is good to keep on hand. It's very inexpensive. Always get organic, but most tofus that you buy in the store are already organic. You don't really have to worry about it, but keep in mind that you should be buying your tofu organic.
Yes.
And then tempeh. We talked about tempeh last week.
We did.
Also, very good to keep on hand. It's a wonderful protein, and it's good for your gut because it's a fermented food.
Then we've got seitan, which is vital wheat gluten. And then we've got textured vegetable protein, or TVP. And finally, jackfruit. If you're into a pulled meat texture for sandwiches or salads, jackfruit is the way to go.
Yeah, and Upton's makes a jackfruit that you can buy. It's like already... You don't have to, because if you buy it in the can, sometimes I think you have to take out the little seed and do different things to it. I know Upton's makes one that's just like ready to go.
It's ready. It's already prepared for you. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So those are just a few things that if you're a newer vegan that you might want to consider keeping on hand so that you're not struggling to figure out what you're going to cook, because all of these things, if you have them in your pantry, you can make so many different things. Just
absolutely.
Seriously, just like go online and go in your pantry and say, I have brown rice and I have a can of beans, and just put it into Google and it will come up with a recipe for you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good to keep those things on hand. It's time for our main topic. This week's main topic is how can we as vegans fight fascism. And really, how can anybody fight fascism?
I was going to say, because this isn't really just a vegan thing.
It is not.
This is an everybody thing.
No, it is an everybody thing.
It is an everybody thing.
Yeah.
So fighting fascism in America requires a multifaceted approach that includes political action, community organizing, education, and cultural resistance. We've done a little research and come up with some key ways to push back against the fascist movements and ideologies that are doing their damnedest to take hold.
They really are. The first thing we're going to talk about is how can we strengthen our democracy? First thing on that list, of course, is vote. Vote in every election as many times as you can. Especially at local and state levels where policies are shaped. Of course, I know you can't vote more than once.
I was going to say.
I was just being facetious there. But yeah, vote. Everybody needs to vote. Something like 33% of eligible voters in the United States in the last presidential election stayed home. They did not vote. And that's why we're here where we are right now. So encourage everyone around you to be registered to vote and to actually go to the polls when it's time to vote.
Also, we want to make sure that we are protecting voting rights by supporting initiatives that fight voter suppression. And this is for all marginalized communities in particular.
Yeah, there's been a lot of voter suppression going on, polling places closing so that people have to go further to get to them. If you are in an area where polling places have closed and things are further and further away, just know there are services that will drive you to the polls when we're on, when it's around an election time. You can research those, and you will find that there are people that will drive people to the polls. If you can't drive or there's not a bus that goes there and you can't afford a taxi to get there, there are people that for free will drive you to the polls.
That's right.
Advocate for fair representation. At this point, I would say advocate for any representation.
Seriously.
Right?
Yeah.
But you can advocate through reforms like ranked choice voting and independent redistricting. Okay, so what is ranked choice voting? Ranked choice voting is a system of voting in which voters rank candidates on their ballot in order of preference. It may also be referred to as the alternative vote or instant runoff voting. Generally speaking, in ranked choice voting, a candidate who earns more than 50% of the vote wins. So it's just what they're saying there is just to shake up the way our voting system works.
Right. And to advocate for ranked choice voting as opposed to the voting system we currently have.
Yeah. Independent redistricting. In some states, politicians draw their own district lines to pick their own voters to protect themselves.
Right.
Elections should be determined by voters, not politicians who draw maps. An independent redistricting commission is a body separate from the legislature that is responsible for drawing the districts used in congressional and state legislative elections. So you want to advocate for independent redistricting.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Huh. More research is required. I find that intriguing.
It is intriguing. And I mean, it's kind of the redistricting and the gerrymandering is kind of another reason why we are where we are.
Oh, yes.
Today.
Certainly at the state level. Yeah.
Yeah. The Electoral College
is a disaster.
Is a disaster, but even more of a disaster is the fact that so much gerrymandering has happened and districts have been redrawn to benefit Republicans. So yeah. Another thing you can do is organize and build coalitions.
That's right. Support grassroots movements that promote civil rights, workers' rights, and democratic principles. And this can be as simple as if you're a member of a national organization like MoveOn.org. I have been getting petition requests from MoveOn.org like crazy.
Yeah.
And I know it may seem like a very simple thing. It may seem like a relatively inconsequential thing to sign a petition, but I really don't believe that it is.
Well, petitions in the United States don't have the same power and weight that they do in other countries.
This is true.
But it is a way for organizations like MoveOn.org to assemble how many people want a specific change.
Yes.
And then move from there. Then they can go to lawmakers and say, this many people say this needs to change.
Yes.
So that's how it works. They're not as powerful. They don't, in like the UK, for instance, petitions actually go to the floor of the parliament.
Right.
And can actually directly affect law.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be cool. We could take a little page from them on that.
Seriously.
That the voters have a little bit more of a voice in Parliament than we do in the House of Congress and in the Senate. So what else can you do? You can build alliances between different groups and fighting for justice, such as labor unions, racial justice organizations, and environmental groups. I think we spoke about this last week, how the different social justice groups really need to band together right now. We cannot afford infighting among different social justice causes. We're all fighting basically for the same thing, and that is for what is right and to save our republic at this point.
Yes. You can also engage in mutual aid and community building efforts to strengthen local resilience. This was huge during the COVID pandemic, that communities would gathered together in mutual aid societies to help their neighbors, making sure people were getting the food, the water, and the resources that they needed during lockdown. And so this does seem like a perfect time to kind of re-energize those efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Challenge disinformation and propaganda. There is so much disinformation and just flat out lying going on right now. Call out lies and conspiracy theories, even though I know it's sometimes seems futile, but please try and call them out. These theories fuel fascist ideology.
Indeed, they do.
And we don't need to give them any more fuel.
Nope. Support independent journalism and fact-based reporting. I'm sure you figured out by now that commercial media...
It's worthless. All commercial media at this point is worthless as far as I'm concerned.
Pretty much.
Yeah, seek out independent sources for your news.
Yes.
For sure. And then teach other people how to do that. Teach media literacy so people can identify and reject propaganda and news that is definitely not giving the full picture.
Hugely important right now is actively opposing authoritarian policies. Resist anti-democratic laws, such as restrictions on protest, attacks on press freedom, or efforts to weaken checks and balances. And these seem to be flying at us every day right now. So...
yeah, we need to be loud.
We do.
We need to be loud when it comes to protecting our right to protest and the right for press to
do their job.
And say what's really happening.
Yes.
And then hold your leaders accountable for abuses of power through legal action, advocacy, and pressure campaigns. Call them. Don't write them. Don't email them. Those things can be tossed out. Calls have to be by law. I know at this point we're like, what law? There is no law. We're living in a lawless society. But by law, calls have to be logged.
Yeah.
And then they have people in congressional and Senate offices that have to categorize those calls. So when you call, be specific. So call all your legislators and say specifically what you want. Not that you just want Donald Trump to go away, but say specifically that you demand that Elon Musk is removed from our federal government agencies.
Yes.
And you want to know what that particular representative is doing to make that happen.
Yes.
Because they have to log it, in particular, what category your call was about. And then if you have something else that you're irked about, call them again.
Yeah.
And say, I would also like to ask Mr. Representative or Mrs. Representative to do whatever else,
Right.
But definitely have a pointed message. Don't generalize.
Right.
Because they have to log that stuff.
And
then confront hate and bigotry when you see it.
Absolutely. Call out racism, misogyny, homophobia, xenophobia, transphobia, wherever they appear.
Yeah, call them out. And support organizations that track and expose hate groups, such as the SPLC and the ADL. There is a lot of hate going around right now.
Yeah, there is.
There are a lot of hate groups. The Proud Boys, they're just neo-Nazis going around. There's young Nazi groups going around. Support organizations that fight those groups.
And counter fascist recruitment by offering alternative narratives that address economic and social grievances.
Use direct action when necessary. And I believe it is necessary at this point to use direct action.
Yes.
Peaceful protests, strikes, and boycotts have historically been effective against fascism.
They have. So organize counter-protests against fascist rallies and demonstrations. Disrupt fascist organizing efforts by exposing bad actors and deplatforming them.
Yes. Educate and preserve our history. A lot of our history, at least on the internet, is being wiped away right now.
Sure is.
There are archived websites that you can go to retrieve some of that information. If you want to start a file on your computer, start downloading stuff and try and preserve some of the things that are being eliminated from, say, the White House website. I don't know if you've been to the White House website right now, but it reads as complete propaganda now.
Yeah.
It reads as a propaganda film. It's pretty frightening. Teach the history of fascism to people and how it rises to prevent its repetition. We cannot let it repeat here.
Defend honest history in schools against efforts to whitewash oppression. Particularly in southern states right now, there is a massive movement to essentially remove the criminal acts in our country's past, the genocide of Native Americans, and of course the slavery of those brought here from Africa. And we're trying to disappear those things.
Yeah.
Not we, but they
Right.
are trying to disappear those things.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that that does not happen.
Right. Promote solidarity and anti-fascist values in cultural spaces like music, art, and literature. The arts are a fantastic tool in times like these.
Sure are.
So promote if you know of an artist or a musician or a writer that is pushing for a better world, promote what they're doing. Share their work. Buy banned books.
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorites right there.
Yeah.
Is buy banned books.
Go to the banned book list and buy as many of them as you can.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
Yeah. And support your library. If you live near a library, support your library because they need help right now.
Yeah, they do.
Support economic justice. Economic inequality can fuel fascism. Fight for living wages, workers' rights, and social safety nets.
And hold corporations accountable when they fund far-right movements.
Mm-hmm.
Fascism thrives on division, fear, and despair. Mm-hmm. The best way to fight it is by fostering solidarity, defending democracy, and taking action, both in everyday life and in moments of crisis. And right now, it seems like the everyday life and moments of crisis are almost inseparable.
Right. But this is happening in real time right now. For instance, corporations that have stood their ground on maintaining their DEI status when they're hiring people.
Yes.
Costco, for example, said they are not removing their DEI program from their HR department.
Yep.
And Costco's stock is going through the roof.
Yes.
Target, on the other hand,
It's tanking.
who immediately removed their DEI initiatives, their stock is tanking because people are like, guess what? We're not shopping there anymore until you are willing to include the people that DEI was put into place for. We're not going to shop there.
That's right.
Yeah. And if people argue with you about DEI, remind them that DEI was put into place not so that people who aren't the right person for the job
Who
can
aren't
get
qualified.
in. Yeah, it's not so that unqualified people can take jobs away from white people. It's so that white people, unqualified, don't take jobs away from people of color, from people that are gay, from people that are trans, from women.
And people who aren't Christian.
Yeah.
all those things.
Some organizations to follow to get more information and calls to action, the ACLU.
Absolutely.
If you can support the ACLU, I highly recommend supporting the ACLU monetarily. If you can't, just make sure you're following their calls to action. And also, like Sam said, moveon.org. You can go to moveon.org's website and sign up for text alerts, and they will alert you to calls to action. They will, like Sam said, they will send you links to petitions, and they will also tell you specific things to say when you're calling your representatives.
Yes.
Like today we're talking about this, and they will say, call your representatives and talk about this.
They also have a rather tremendous guide on the art of peaceful protest.
Yes.
Which I highly recommend if you are planning on going to any kind of demonstration, any kind of rally, any kind of protest. You download this guide and follow the instructions.
Follow the instructions. And in that guide, they also include free printable things,
Yes.
like posters and stuff like that. All kinds of really, really great resources. MoveOn.org. If you're on social media, highly recommend following Alt National Parks, which was a branch of the National Parks workers that broke off during the first Trump administration and formed a coalition. They are currently, I want to say something at this point, 300,000 strong federal employees that have an underground network of people reporting what's going on inside these agencies where Elon Musk and his band of young, terrible kids. Just these
That
kids.
was eloquent.
Their parents must be so proud. But anyway, they're reporting on what's going on the inside. These people are risking life and limb to get the information out there. So if you're on social media, be sure to follow Alt National Parks on Facebook, on Instagram. If you're not doing Meta now, I can understand it. You can always go to Blue Sky, which is a non-Meta owned social media platform. Also, there's no ads on Blue Sky. You create your own algorithm. It's not the machine that
Right.
that is Facebook, Twitter. Don't even go to Twitter. Don't even bother going to Twitter. It is a cesspool of misinformation. And follow your local LGBTQ plus organizations and support them in any way that you can.
Yeah.
I know that the Western New York LGBTQ plus group is great. They post a lot of great stuff on social media, as do the Syracuse and the Central New York LGBTQ. And there are LGBTQ plus groups all over the country that are doing wonderful things.
Yeah.
So follow them and support them if they need support.
Yep.
And then lastly, the NAACP.
Of course.
Can never go wrong following the NAACP.
Nope.
So those are just a few things that we can do to take action and maybe go from anxiety and anguish to action. Because sometimes taking even just a small piece of action, calling your representative, it can alleviate some of that anxiety.
It really can. I think one of the dangers of all of this is because things are coming at us so fast and so furious, it's really easy to get overwhelmed, to feel like there is absolutely nothing we can do about any of this.
Yeah.
And that can be really disheartening.
I mean, it's really easy to slip into hopelessness.
Yes.
Through all of this.
And so we need to make sure that we don't allow ourselves the luxury of hopelessness. Yeah. There's too much work to be done.
There's a lot of work to be done. Don't get me wrong. It's good to step away from it.
Sure.
For a time, just for your own well-being.
And sanity.
So, I mean, you can't be, acting 100% of the time, 7 days a week.
No.
No. So take time to take care of yourself. Give yourself the grace for that. But taking action can definitely alleviate some of that hopelessness and the negative feelings that a lot of us are feeling right now. With that said, we're going to move on to our assignment, Restaurant SOS. This week, we are highlighting a restaurant that we have highlighted in the past.
Indeed.
But not under our new...
Not under the new system.
Not under the new system.
That's right.
And it's Eden Cafe and Bake Shop in Batavia, New York.
That's right. They are located at 242 Ellicott Street in Batavia, New York. We absolutely love Eden Cafe and Bake Shop.
Yeah.
Every time we get to go there, it's just a treat.
Their food is fantastic. The atmosphere, it's such a cute place.
It's adorable.
Such a cute. They have this wonderful corner location. It's very inviting, and their menu is fantastic. They have some awesome drinks.
Oh, they make a killer London fog.
Yep. And I love that their website is carrotdogcafe.com.
It's a great name.
Because they have an entire menu of different carrot dogs that you can get.
Yes.
Now, if you go to Eden Cafe and Bake Shop in Batavia, be sure to take a picture of your meal and send it along to us, email it to us, let us know what the meal was, and we will enter you in to win a meal at Eden Cafe and Bake Shop.
Indeed.
And that email is compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com. Send us a picture, let us know what you ate there, and we will enter you in. Thank you so much to everybody that's already sent in entries for both Strong Hearts and for Grass-Fed. So those entries are coming in.
Cool.
And at the end of the month, we will put you all in a hat and figure out who we're buying dinner for.
Sounds good.
Yeah. That brings us to our favorite portion of the show.
Must be listener shout out time.
It's listener shout out.
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
This week's listener shout out goes to Pete DeGeneva from Vegan Trivia. Thank you so much for listening, Pete, and for coming to our Vegan Trivia event.
Yeah, it was such a good time. And I love that Pete was convinced that we are going to win a Veg News Award.
I tell you, his commitment was true.
It was.
It was amazing.
It was. And thank you so much for listening, for coming to the trivia event. It was so great to meet you. Send us your t-shirt size and address, Pete, so that we can send you a Compassion and Cucumbers swag bag. You can email that to us at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram or Facebook, or use the text link at the top of our show notes. Be sure to include your name and that information, and we'll get that swag bag out to you.
And for the rest of you out there, if you would like a listener shout out, please email, text, or DM Christine. Let us know what you think of the show and tell us a little bit about yourself. You can also always nominate someone else for a shout out.
Yeah, please do. It's time to wrap this baby up. But before we go, don't forget, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube, and leave us a review and a rating so that we can reach more incredible people just like you.
You can also get news about the show by subscribing to our weekly newsletter at compassionandcucumbers.com. And with that, it's time to sign off. You have just listened to episode 172 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, and there's nothing left to say but where cukes and compassion are always the fashion. On the podcast.
Thanks, James.
Have a great week, everyone.
We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We love you.
We do. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
The end.
If you'd like to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, well, you can do that by hopping on over to our Patreon page and becoming a patron. We have all the recipes from our vegan kitchen series up there, and we'll be adding some patron-only episodes in the near future. So thank you for supporting us at whatever level that you choose, and thank you again for listening to Compassion and Cucumbers podcast.